herbs, nutrition, and health. My very own guest today is Mac.
See, I got into this, and I like to call it natural health. I got into this industry way back, I guess, in 84 or so. I had a kidney disease. If any of y'all recall or remember Eddie Murphy's version of the Nutty Professor, Big Sherm, okay, that basically was a page out of my life. I gained about over 100-something pounds in 48 hours. I mean, it was ridiculous.
In 2 days?
In 48 hours. I noticed my feet start swelling up. And then next thing I know, it was going up my ankles. It was going up my legs. And I mean, within 48 hours, I went from like 150 to over 250 pounds.
Well, in some cases, people do that in some cases over weeks and over months. And sometimes people say it's a thyroid condition. It's this and that. But you're saying within 2 days.
Right. And
that's crazy.
It was devastating to me because actually I was very young. I was in the height of my partying time, you know, at that age, and I just couldn't believe it. And I had to go to the hospital. I was in the military at the time, and I spent about 2 months in Portsmouth Naval Hospital with a kidney disease called nephrotic syndrome.
Now, did they discover this disease immediately, or did they have to run tests, or they knew exactly what it was immediately?
Oh, yeah, they had to do tests and all that, you know, and they was always taking blood from me.
All right.
So then they gave me that diagnosis, but then I started asking questions. I was like, why did this happen to me? You know, how did this happen to me? You know, and the doctors weren't...
Can it happen again?
Yeah, they weren't able to really give me sufficient answers, you know. It kind of catapulted me to take control of my own life. And that's when I started learning about my illness. I started going in the medical library there at Portsmouth Naval Hospital and started reading about nephrotic syndrome. And I just started reading about it and trying to educate myself about what this is and what it was.
Well, I don't know if anyone would have been able to deal with it or handle it like you did, as far as taking on your own research. A lot of, I'm sure our listeners and myself would depend on doctors or experts in that field and maybe not jump to finding so much information out themselves.
Well, I guess because of how it happened so quick or fast to me. You know, it just devastated me. And, you know, I mean, you look at yourself in the mirror at one time, you're only like 150, and next thing you know, in a few days, you're over 250 something pounds. It's like, whoa, what happened here? You know.
Yeah.
So
you would probably feel like you were in a movie or pinching yourself or.
Yeah, it was just unreal. But I mean, just laying there, you know, not able to really do anything but depend on these doctors, and they weren't able to give me the answers I wanted. Once I was able to get up out of my bed, that's where I went. I went straight to the medical library, and I started reading about that and just educating myself. And I found out a little later on, down the line, after I got out of the hospital, that it was stress, number one, and water. I wasn't drinking any water. I used to drink Kool-Aid. I used to drink juice, all the little frozen juices, you know, they have in the grocery store that you, I don't know if they still have those.
They're in a can.
You peel them off
right.
and stuff you peel. I used to drink
and then you
all
add water
stuff.
to the juice,
Yeah,
correct?
add water.
Frozen can of fruit.
I love those.
Juice.
And Kool-Aid, and I drank just about everything but plain water. All the sodas or pops, you know, out there. I used to drink all that stuff, but not really plain water. And I learned, because I kept studying, that stress is the initial cause of most illnesses. And I knew water was one of mine. So I said from that day on, I would always have a bottle of water wherever I go.
Now, the kidney disease you had, what you learned from your research, is it genetically based? Can it be triggered by our bad nutritional habits? could anyone get that disease?
It's possible some of it may have been genetic, but it was more, because I could have, it's just like, I guess sometimes when you have, like a lot of blacks have sickle cell, and because actually I have sickle trait, and you can be like right on that fine line because it's genetic, in you. And
right.
Then if you go through some very stressful, emotionally or even physically stressful times in your life, then you can push your body, to go towards that illness because, you're weak.
Right.
You're weak in it. And I think maybe some was genetic, okay. But I think mostly it was because I put myself under a tremendous amount of stress. I was pushing my body at that time because I was driving cross country. I drove from California, I stopped in Alabama, and then I was driving up to Virginia to see a friend.
Okay.
And I was taking no-dose and all that stuff, and I'd wake up off of 4 hours of sleep.
And keep on driving.
Drive 10 hours, and so that's a tremendous amount of stress that I was putting on my body. So I think that is what catapulted me into that illness.
Right. Almost like an episode that...
Yeah, I normally try not to push myself that much, but I was really pushing it, and then not having enough water. So being, I guess, on that fine line of possibly having some genetic traits of the kidney disease, it just
right.
pushed me over the line.
And it just seems like all of that together, like a combination of things, factors, got you where you were.
That's it.
Now, having that health history, would you say that makes you an expert or qualified to talk about the area of how important it is to think about herbs and nutrition for ourselves in our daily lifestyles, routines?
Most definitely. Well, because I not only experienced that, but now I live a lifestyle of health and wealth.
Right. The epitome of health.
Yeah, I live that as much as I can because I made an oath to myself. I said that I would never go anywhere without water. So water was the first thing that I started making sure I had enough of in my body.
All right.
And after the water, I just kept searching and going to school. Went to Pacific College of Oriental Medicine, and I learned about Chinese medicine. And I graduated from their Tui Na program. Tui Na is a modality that heals illness and disease in the body, as well as musculoskeletal injuries throughout the body. They use what the Chinese call Qi. A lot of people have heard of Qi, and I practice Qigong. With the Qi and Tui Na, we can manipulate or move the energy, because Qi is like a life force of energy for us. But we use that to help heal people in their body with that Qi. A lot of Ayurvedic modalities and herbs and stuff, are around now, and the Hindus, they call that energy Ka. So people that practice yoga and different things, they will be using the Ka to help heal or help take deficiencies or stagnations of energy and things out of the body or move them around as needed.
Well, I like where we're going with this conversation because a lot of us only approach our health through Western medicine, whether it's taking medication and pills or shots like steroids and things like that. I love some of the things that you're already covering because you may end up kind of busting through some of the myths of why people prefer Western over Eastern or Eastern over Western. Meaning, like, when I first met you and you were giving just not even a presentation, but of an introduction to why you want to introduce people to health and nutrition through herbs. And you said, look, my doctor told me I have a 42-year-old body. And you're how old?
32 biologically.
A 32 biologically. And you are how old?
I'm 57.
And I was blown away.
From there, I just kept educating myself, going to different programs. I graduated from Pacific College Oriental Medicine's Tui Na program. And then I also started studying and reading about herbs and nutrition, and I got with Nature Sunshine products. A friend of mine that was in the same drama group that I was told me about these herbs, because I was looking for herbs, trying to find out about herbs. Let me see, what is this herbs all about? And so when I got with Nature Sunshine, I started learning a lot more about herbs, because the manager that was over me there, she was a naturopath, and she used to hold classes for us every week and talk to us about the body and how the different herbs that Nature Sunshine had affected the body or helped the body. And
I don't know a lot about herbs, but I have heard from people who use herbs and know about herbs that there's pretty much a herb for every health complication that we have.
Yeah, there is, basically. I mean, this is not just scientific, it's biblical. Okay, if your listeners familiar with some parts of the Bible, then God said that he put the herbs here for the service of man. So the plants and the herbs, actually the plant is the most perfect source of food for the body. And I try to intake as much plant life food as possible, because it is the most perfect source of food. It is easy for the body to be able to digest and assimilate and use the nutrients that comes from the plant.
One of those herbs that come to mind, a big one, is sage.
Okay.
I've had many friends use sage.
Yeah.
For cleansing, clarifying.
Yeah.
Just amazing things.
Yeah, I've used sage, but mostly for cooking and seasoning things.
Can you share with us a little bit about major issues or concerns when you're talking about the importance of herbs and nutrition that you have faced working in the community? Maybe getting the message across, or what type of issues or concerns?
Well, a lot of times, and I've lived in Southern California for some time, like back in the 70s, I was here, and I remember when I was living in Los Angeles, I did a lot of fairs and things, and talked to people and try to help them with nutritional issues or health issues. And it was a big lack of information out there that I saw. People just did not have the information about all these different herbs or all these different natural modalities that can help them. And wherever I go, I try to introduce and help people with these. For instance, when I was in the military, a lot of the guys were getting these knee surgeries. Every other person I see just about would have a knee surgery, had knee surgery, something.
Very common.
Knee. Yeah, so.
And very profitable.
So I told him that I could give him a massage, the Twina, and help him with his pain, because he was saying he was, always in pain or things like that. So I did like a 30-minute Twina session, and he was like, wow, man. He said, I never felt the blood flow in my leg like that. He said, man, this is awesome. He said, I never had my blood flow. And I'm thinking, wow, well, this guy, blood has been stagnant, and caught up, and, he hasn't, really been able to experience his
He felt it immediately.
Like well, yeah, after like maybe 10 or 15 minutes working on him.
After you finished working on him, he felt it immediately.
Yeah, he felt it. It was amazing, because he had been in so much pain. He had not been able to, really be himself again after these surgeries to his knees. And it was just, for him, astounding. He was like, man, wow, this is great.
So you were even working on his leg or knee after he had had the surgeries?
Right.
Wow, yeah, not even before.
After, yeah, because you have to wait. You can't go like, if they're like a week out or something like that, you have to wait enough time for the body to kind of help heal some of the issues and scar tissues that have been damaged in there. So I think he had his surgery. He was like a year out, I believe.
Okay.
So it's just that he had not had any kind of rehabilitative type of work, physical therapy or anything, I don't think done in a long time. So
or even done in this way.
Right.
Because
Especially not in this
a lot
way.
of people have an automatic physical therapy after a knee surgery.
Right.
But it probably wasn't having the same impact because it came from him saying, I've never felt this.
Right. Well, not at all, because Chinese medicine, they treat illness and disease a lot differently than Western medicine. They take the whole body into account. And when we do an assessment on someone, we ask all kinds of questions. So we take all that into respect.
That's a holistic approach.
Yes, most definitely.
And then also, you had mentioned before when you went through ordeal with the kidney disease, that it was a combination of stress, not having enough water,
right,
and probably having bad habits.
The way I ate.
Drinks like Kool-Aids and fruit juices. Tell a little bit about that, because we all have bad habits.
Right. Well, basically back then, I ate anything. You put it on the plate, I would eat it. And you know, if put it in a cup or something, I would drink it. But I wasn't drinking water that much. I found time to drink all this other stuff that was loaded with sugar or loaded with other kinds of junk, you know. I mean, even alcohol, I believe, back in them days, I was drinking, you know, alcohol and different things. So,
which probably was very hard on your kidney for filtering.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Mm-hmm. So, and then partying. I used to party like almost 7 days a week.
No break.
I was a big partier, you know. So putting my body through all that, it didn't matter what it was, you know. It's like, come on, hey, let's do it. A lot of abuse, I guess, you know, with the body, and people don't really realize that, you know, you're putting your body through that kind of abuse. So,
and it's the only body we have.
Yeah, you only live once. So I decided to make a change, and I did it the slow way, and probably not most popular way. I did little things at a time. And the first thing, when I learned how actually from the hospital, they put no seasoning in the food there. You know, if you've been in the hospital, you all know that. There's no seasoning in their food. Very bland. So I said, I'm going to take that with me. When I got out the hospital, I did not season my food. I left it bland, just like that. I did not season it. I said, I don't need seasoning, because I was thinking of the salt, the sugar, you know, that would add to high blood pressure or whatever, or diabetes, or, you know, any other disease like that. Because sugar really is over 100 diseases that, if you have an over abuse or use of sugar, can affect you. And heart disease is one of them. Mm-hmm. So I just left my food bland. Mm-hmm. And from there, then I started cutting down on beef, because I learned beef cannot properly be digested. And this is why a lot of people have like this pooch down here, or they have really like anywhere from 10 to 20 something pounds of waste still in their body. Sitting in the colon.
And becoming toxic.
Yes. If meat is in the body past 5 hours, it begins to putrefy, rot, and toxins are starting to grow in the body just after 5 hours if meat is still in there.
We would change so many things, Mac, if we knew this information.
And it takes an average meal 24 hours to digest. So just imagine that. If it's taking 24 hours for this whole meal, and you had your nice big hunk of steak, you know, the T-bone. I used to eat all that stuff, big T-bone or something, and prime rib and all that stuff. Just 5 hours in your body, that stuff's there. It's putrefying, it's rotting, and it's putting toxins in the colon. So that's definitely not a good feeling, and health-wise, it has a big impact.
Oh my goodness. Well, when you shared with our listeners that one of the biggest things you found out when you were at festivals or at a booth talking about things, or just around giving information, you're finding out that people didn't have this type of information. You probably started becoming an advocate for getting that information out there about herbs and nutrition.
I actually interview other health practitioners in natural health, like iridologists, kinesiologists, naturopaths, and people of that sort. I interview them and let them tell what their modalities are all about, and to help educate people and let them know this wealth of information that's out there that can help them.
And you gave out a lot of wonderful information that I know our listeners probably have never even heard of and weren't thinking that way of when they want to lose weight, when they want to get back in shape. I think a lot of us take a different approach, and I think you opened up some doors to a different way of thinking.
I hope so.